The biggest mistake people make with money is not that they are stupid. It is not that they lack formulas. It is not that they failed to learn some secret Wall Street language. It is much simpler than that. They confuse money with meaning. They start using money as a scoreboard instead of using it as a tool. And once that happens, it becomes very easy to make a lot, spend a lot, chase a lot, and still feel as if you are losing. I have spent most of my life watching people misunderstand this. They think the rich person is the one with the larger house, the better car, the more visible life, the more expensive habits, the more impressive vacations, the louder proof. I have never thought that way. What I have always wanted from money is independence. I want to wake up in the morning and know I can do what I think is right. I want enough cushion that I do not have to sell my future just to survive the present. I want enough room that I can make decisions from judgment rather than panic. That to me is wealth. Not display, not applause, not the ability to make strangers jealous. Freedom, that is the real destination. The material you gave me circles around this point again and again. It contrasts using money as a tool to live a better life with using it as a yardstick against other people. And it repeatedly argues that behavior matters more than credentials, formulas, or status. Fay-Felicite, Fay turned 7 file 0 Fay. That is exactly right. I have seen ordinary people with plain jobs and no financial pedigree become secure because they were patient, disciplined, and emotionally steady. I have also seen highly educated, highly connected, highly compensated people destroy themselves because they could not control comparison, impulse, ego, or debt. This surprises people because in most fields, intelligence and training dominate. Money is different. Money is one of the few arenas where a person with average intelligence and above average behavior can beat a person with superior intelligence and terrible habits. That is a hopeful truth. It means the game is much more behavioral than people think. And behavior is trainable. Now, the first enemy is not low income. Sometimes low income is real and painful, and I am not dismissing that. But for a great many people, the real enemy is expectation. Expectation is what turns enough into not enough. Expectation is what makes a stable life feel like failure. Expectation is what transforms a practical apartment into an embarrassment, a sensible car into a disappointment, and an ordinary income into a humiliation. The source says it plainly in one of its strongest ideas: happiness is the gap between expectations and reality. The wider the gap, the more miserable a person feels. Fay-Felicite Fay turn 7 file 0 Fay, that is an extremely powerful idea. Because once you understand that, you stop assuming every money problem is solved by making more. Sometimes the problem is not the paycheck. Sometimes the problem is the standard you believe your life is supposed to meet. And that standard is often not your own. It was borrowed from advertising, from neighbors, from social media, from envy, from old family stories, from insecurity, from your own desire to be seen a certain way. That is why so many people can make more money and still feel behind. They do not reduce the gap. They move the goalpost. They get a raise. And now the nicer neighborhood feels necessary. They finally get stable, and now the bigger vacation feels deserved. They pay down one debt, and now a more expensive lifestyle feels justified. That game has no ending. The source even uses that exact idea from Housel's work, that the hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. Fay-Felicite Fay turn 7 file 0 Fay, that is one of the deepest lines in personal finance. Because if you cannot stop the goalpost from moving, then progress does not feel like progress. It feels like a chase. And people in a chase do dangerous things. They take too much risk. They spend to keep up. They borrow to maintain appearances. They confuse admiration with security. They build lives that look stronger from the outside than they actually are. That is how financial fragility gets dressed up as success. So let me say something very directly. You can make $100,000 and feel poor. You can make $1 million and feel behind. You can also make much less than that and feel stable, in control, and free. That is not because money does not matter. It matters a great deal. It is because money only solves what money can solve. It can buy time, flexibility, healthcare, safety, education, convenience, and room. Those are real things. But it cannot permanently fill a hole created by comparison. It cannot satisfy a moving identity problem. It cannot keep making you feel successful if success is defined by people who always have more. That is the psychological trap. And it is why I think contentment is not softness, it is not laziness, it is not lack of ambition. It is the ability to enjoy what you have without needing every gain to become a new baseline of dissatisfaction. That is an advanced skill. I still work on it myself. Now, I want to talk about the second enemy, which is debt used for identity. The source makes one of its strongest points here when it says every dollar of debt is a piece of your future that somebody else owns, while every dollar of savings is a piece of your future that you own. Fe Filicite, Fe turn 7 file 0 Fe, that is exactly how I think about it. Debt can be useful in certain contexts: a sensible mortgage, a productive business loan, a temporary tool in a rational plan fine. But consumer debt used to chase a lifestyle you have not earned is something else entirely. That is not leverage. That is surrender. You are selling future time for present image. You are turning tomorrow's labor into today's emotional relief. That may feel good in the moment. Most self-destructive things do. But the bill stays after the mood is gone. A sweater bought on credit might create a little burst of pleasure. The payments linger. A car chosen for image might create a short sense of arrival. The obligation remains. That is the hidden cruelty of debt-driven lifestyle inflation. The feeling is temporary. The ownership claim on your future is not. So when people ask me why saving matters, especially if they can only save a small amount, my answer is very simple. Because saving purchases independence immediately, not someday, today. The source says even a small amount saved should be understood not as delayed gratification alone, but as a piece of future control and present peace of mind purchased. Now, Fe Filicite, Fe turn 7 file 0 Fe, that is right. If you save $100, you have not merely postponed spending. You have bought $100 of breathing room, $100 of less desperation, $100 of less future dependence on lenders, bosses, relatives, or bad luck. That changes the emotional meaning of saving completely. A lot of people fail to save because they think saving means giving up pleasure, now in exchange for some vague abstract reward later. That is not how I see it. I see saving as buying independence. Now, I see it as paying for the right to be a little less afraid. I see it as increasing the chance that when life does what life always does, and it always does something, I have room. And room is underrated. Room is what keeps an inconvenience from becoming a crisis. Room is what allows judgment to survive stress. Room is what lets a person keep dignity in a bad month. The source also makes an important point about fragility. It says that job loss, illness, recession, divorce, difficult children, or some other serious disruption will happen in some form to almost everyone. And when it does, savings suddenly become the most valuable thing in the world. Fe Filicite, Fe turn 7, file 0 Fe, of course. That is not pessimism. That is adulthood. Life is fragile. Careers are fragile. Health is fragile. Relationships are fragile. The economy is fragile. So the person who saves is not being timid. He is acknowledging reality. He is building a cushion against the fact that certainty is not available. That is wisdom. And this is why I think the obsession with earning more, while understandable, often misses the deeper point. Income matters, ambition matters, work matters. I like ambition. I have no problem with the desire to earn more. But income is fickle. Savings are what remain when income disappears. The source says this clearly too. Income can fall to zero, sometimes unexpectedly, while savings are what carry you through when that happens. Fe Filicite, Fe turn 7 file 0 Fe. That is why I care more about the gap between income and spending than income alone. A large income with no gap is fragile. A moderate income with a persistent gap is powerful, because the gap is what creates savings, and savings are what become freedom. Now I want to move to investing because people make this subject much harder than it needs to be. They think investing success belongs to people with secret knowledge, special access, or superior intelligence. I do not believe that. The source makes a version of the same point when it says extraordinary patience matters more than extraordinary returns, and that an average investor with average discipline over a very long time can do extraordinarily well. Fay Felicite Fay turn 7 file 0 Fay. That is exactly right. Compounding is not magic. It is simply the process by which returns begin earning returns, and time multiplies the effect. At first it feels slow. That is why so many people underestimate it. Then, after long enough, it begins to look unbelievable. That is why so many people admire it too late. The point is not that you need brilliance. The point is that you need duration. You need to keep money invested long enough for the machine to matter. That is why I have always favored simple investing. The more complicated the system, the lower the odds that ordinary people will stay with it for 20 or 30 years. Simplicity is not a lack of sophistication. Sometimes it is the highest form of sophistication, because the best investment plan is not the theoretically perfect one. It is the one you can actually stick with when markets fall, when headlines scream, when fear rises, and when boredom tempts you to do something foolish. That is why patience is such an underrated asset. Not because patience sounds noble, because patience compounds, and the impatient are constantly interrupting their own success. Now let us get to something even deeper, the difference between rich and wealthy. The source makes a useful version of this distinction. Being rich means money is flowing through your life and paying for visible things. Being wealthy means there is unspent money, saved and invested money that has created independence. Fay file site Fay turn 7 file 0 Fay, that is exactly how I see it. Rich is what people can see. Wealth is what gives you options. Rich is the visible house, the visible car, the visible spending. Wealth is the invisible buffer, the unspent capital, the ability to say no, the ability to wait, the ability to leave, the ability to act from your own judgment. That is why I think so many people chase the weaker form of success. Visible success is emotionally tempting. Invisible success is strategically superior. And this brings me back to the real point. What is money for? That question sounds simple. But most people never answer it, honestly. They inherit a definition from culture. It is for looking successful. It is for proving you made it. It is for moving up. It is for winning. I have never liked that answer. To me, money is for autonomy. It is for reducing the number of things you must do that violate your judgment. It is for giving your family stability. It is for buying back time. It is for replacing panic with patience. It is for lowering the pressure in your life so that your decisions improve. The source says something similar when it talks about independence as the real flex, not visible lifestyle. Fay file site Fay turn 7 file 0 Fay, exactly. Independence is the flex. The rest is often decoration. And once you see that, your choices change. A practical house can feel better than an impressive one. A paid for used car can feel better than a flashy financed one. A growing savings account can feel better than another expensive purchase. A simple index fund can feel better than gambling on sophistication. A quiet life can feel richer than a loud one. Because now you are judging your money by what it does for your life, not by what it says to strangers. That is a much healthier standard. Now let me end with the one idea I think matters most enough. The source brings this out repeatedly, both directly and indirectly. Desiring less can have the same effect on well-being as earning more. Enough is not surrender. Enough is what makes contentment possible. Fay file site Fay turn 7 file 0 Fay, that is one of the hardest truths in finance. Because we live in a culture that always wants one more turn of the screw. More house, more status, more gear, more proof, more followers, more visible success. But if enough never arrives psychologically, then more will not save you. It will only make the game larger. I do not think enough means no ambition. It means ambition with boundaries. It means wanting progress without letting progress destroy your peace. It means using money to support a good life rather than using your life to endlessly support a higher number. That is the distinction. So if I were reducing everything here to a few plain lines, I would say this: stop using money to measure yourself against other people. Use it to reduce dependence. Treat savings as a real expense, not an optional leftover. Think of every dollar saved as a piece of your future reclaimed. Invest simply and patiently. Protect the gap between what you earn and what you spend. Do not confuse visible richness with actual wealth, and decide clearly and early what enough looks like for you. Because if you can do that, then money stops being a source of confusion and starts becoming what it should have been all along. A tool for steadiness, a tool for patience, a tool for freedom. And freedom, if you ask me, is the best return money can ever produce.